Welcome back. We are on Daf Tet Amud Bet. We're going to pick up right from where we left off. But in order to do that, without throwing you in on the deep end, like we always say, I like to hopefully give us like one last lick at the Mishnah so that we can know exactly what we're talking about. Take a look at the Mishnah. The Mishnah is we're going to be picking up on the third opinion over here. So you see in the midway through the Mishnah, Hasoneh eno goleh. Someone who is a hater, right? Haters don't go into exile. Why not? Right? Why not?
Because they get killed.
So 1 second. We remember we said already we had this problem.
More of a punishment.
Right. So soneh, if we know that soneh is killing because he wants to kill him, right? So it's not enough to be able to send him to Galut because we expect that the soneh is doing it for that reason. Rabbi Yossi says, no, not only that, hasoneh ne'erag. Not only is it too much and we'll let God take care of him, we're going to take care of him and we're going to put him in the electric chair. Why? Because as we explained in the Gemara just now, that Rabbi Yossi holds that the fact that he hates him enough is already enough of a hatra'ah. Because he's the opinion that says that the warning is really only to distinguish the men from the boys, to establish intent. Once we know that the guy hates him, right, that's already enough for us to know hatra'ah is there, and therefore we'll even give him the death penalty. He's like the shore, like the ox that goes 3 times. You already know to expect it. Rabbi Shimon Omer, and this is the bit where the Gemara is picking up now. Rabbi Shimon is now third opinion in a 3-way machloket. Rabbi Shimon Omer, yesh soneh goleh, yesh soneh she'eno goleh. There is a person who's previously a hater who goes into galut, yesh soneh, and there's a soneh that's not goleh. What does that mean? How do we understand this terminology of yesh v'yesh? The Mishnah says, zeh hakela, this is the rule. Anytime where in the scenario that just went down with this soneh, we say it could be ladat that he did it on purpose, eno goleh. So it needs to be rigidly established that it was inadvertent. If you could say, if there's a possibility that it was done, it was not inadvertent, it was done on purpose, eno goleh, he's not goleh. So then he's like the Tana Kama. Because we're going to say, you know what, the soneh, he probably did it, on purpose, and therefore galut's not good enough for him. The shelo ladat, right, harag.
If it's on purpose.
Sorry?
If it's on purpose, he gets no galut.
Sorry?
Yes, yes. If it's on
so
purpose.
when it's possible that it was on purpose, eno goleh. Ushelo ladat harag, but it's absolutely sure that it was not inadvertent. How could you ever be sure that it's inadvertent? The guy, the guy shoots a gun. Oh, I didn't know. So to say we're not sure that it's inadvertent, you could say, but how could you be sure, right? Shelo ladat, that it was for sure inadvertent.
Well, if you're not 100% sure it was intentional, then by definition,
that's the first piece.
Unintentional.
The first piece is if there's doubt, maybe it was inadvertent. That's already eno goleh, because since he's a soneh, we bump him to the side of doing it on purpose. So in a safek, which way do we go with a hater? We say that it was inadvertent, therefore no galut, because not good enough for him. Now there's the other side. What's the other side? But when it's for sure, right, shalol, if there's no way that it's not inadvertent, then he does get galut.
An accident.
But how could that be? So it's an accident that he couldn't have known how. So we'll already understand what that is. Your minds are probably already kind of chasing down what that eventuality is. But for right now, we have Rabbi Shimon that's kind of the midway point between the Tana Kanama and Rabbi Yossi. Now let's see the Gemara. Turn back to 9b2. Rabbi Shimon Omer soneh goleh. The Gemara says, okay, so let's see. How do we understand Rabbi Shimon? We have a braita that's going to help us understand the Mishnah. Tanya, Ketzer Amar Rabbi Shimon. When did Rabbi Shimon say his halacha? Yesh soneh goleh, yesh soneh she'eno goleh. How does that work? The Gemara says, Nifsak goleh. Guy's holding a rope. the rope breaks in half. So he's holding one half of the rope, the other half of the rope, right, is holding something up, or holding the person, whatever the case might be. But the rope breaks. If the rope breaks, goleh. Why? Because even my intentions notwithstanding, how do I make something happen in the object? Right? I couldn't have made the thing break by itself. Okay? So that's the case of nifsak. Nishmat, but if it slipped out of his hands, yani, okay? Slipped out of your hands, you can let go. So when it's up to you in your hand, when it's quite literally in your hands, nishmat, right? It slips out, then eno goleh, because they were going to say, you know what? You let it go. You probably did it on purpose.
So if someone's an enemy or someone hates someone, you kind of lose the idea of kaf sechut, like we don't give him the benefit of the doubt.
Correct. Well, the flip side of that statement is we're kind of letting God decide anyway. In the opinion of Rabbi Yossi, we're trying to kill you. So there you might have a good point. What do you mean? Where's the benefit of the doubt? Now, there's the flip side to that as well, right? You understand? Yes. But here where we're saying that you're not going to kill him, we're leaving it up to Hashem. So if it's a benefit of the doubt, Hashem will benefit of the doubt.
I got it.
The other part to this is that we've discussed this a few times, that the idea of the benefit of the doubt has a
Limit.
Musar, but also halacha. So as an example, the poskim, the Rishonim say, let's say you see a tzaddik doing something that's way beneath his station, obligation to judge him very favorably. Let's say you see a rasha doing something he does every single day of his life. You don't have to make up ulcers for a rasha that ate yesterday in McDonald's and the day before, whole life ate McDonald's. Now he's eating McDonald's. All of a sudden he's a tzaddik and there's some reason for it. You don't have to do that, okay? Benoni, now it depends. Is it something that's beyond the pale for him, right? It doesn't make sense he should be doing it. There we say, you're still giving the benefit of the doubt. But if it's outlandish to give him benefit of the doubt, the only way is to twist yourself into a pretzel to do it, there it's midat chasidut. Okay? So even the concept of judging favorably depends on, like, how unlikely are we talking? Here the Torah says, the guy is telling you, all of a sudden, the one guy who hates the other one guy finds himself in a forest with the guy and he has a handle of an axe. How come they're going wood chopping together all of a sudden? How come all of a sudden this marriage of convenience happens and the guy he wants dead winds up dead? It doesn't make sense. So I don't even know if the concept of judging favorably would apply, because it's established, like the language of the pasuk says, Vehu lo soneh mitmo shilshom, and he does not hate him yesterday and the day before. What we're looking for when we talk about hate is a continuous pattern of hatred and animosity. Okay? Let's continue. So the Gemara says, that's how we're learning from the Braita, right? So you want to know what Rabbi Shimon means. You have a soneh that gets exile. You have a soneh that doesn't get exile. What are we referring to? The first piece where he says he gets no exile. What's that talking about? When the rope breaks, when there's no way to establish the first case where we say he's off the hook is when he let go. So we won't give him exile because he deserves worse. We assume he was on purpose. But if it broke in his hands, so that's shelo ledat harag. Right there, there's no way it was up to his intention, because something else had to happen in order for it to go down that way. The Gemara says, hold up. You just brought a very convenient braita that neatly divided Rabbi Shimon into two different occurrences. A rope that slipped or a rope that broke. Slipped, you could say he let go, or he was holding it too loosely. But broke, it would have had to do something on its own. The Gemara says, V'atanya, we have another braita that says, Rabbi Shimon says, Le'olam eno goleh, you never get galut, ad yishamet mahatzalo miyado. Until, in this case, it's talking about someone who's fixing the roof. That was the case in the original Mishnah. So when the trowel that you're using to spread, trowel is that the triangle with the handle,
Oh, yes.
So you use it also
Spreads the
for
plaster.
tiles.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a trowel, okay? So if the trowel slips out of his hands and then hits someone, dafka, he says, she shamet, okay? So that's where the thing, it breaks off. But in a scenario where something slips out of your hand, okay? There you would have no galut. So the only galut happens by ishamet, when the object breaks. But when it slips, we always say it's too much. There's too much cause here for us to think that it didn't happen by accident.
But that slips and breaks?
Sorry?
That slips and breaks?
No, that's just slips. Okay? Something just slips out of his hand. The Gemara says, 1 second. Now we have two braitas that are saying exactly the opposite of one another. Let's take a look again. The braita said before, when did Rabbi Shimon say that? Right? When did he say that? Nifsak gole. If it slips, then there's galut. And what are we saying over here? If it slips, there's never galut. The braita on the first page is saying nishmat, right? But when it breaks, right, then eno gole, right? Then there's no galut. The braita over here says explicitly the only time you have galut is when it breaks.
Is there something different about the cases?
Huh?
Is there something different about the cases that allow them to both stand on their own, or is it?
That is the line of reasoning that we're going to have to use, but the question is how, okay? So one more time. The first braita says, nifsak, if it breaks, okay, gole, you get galut, and nishmat, if it falls out of your hand, there's no galut, okay? And the second braita says, leolam eno gole ad shishamet. The only time you have galut is when it slips. But when it breaks, right? When it breaks, there's never galut. And by the way, remember, over here, this braita is not even talking about a hater. It's just establishing a general principle in galut.
Isn't that the distinction?
Sorry?
Isn't that the distinction?
Oh, so we're going to come to that in the answer to the Gemara. But we're left with a little bit of a problem here, because he is now saying that, because he's not talking about a soneh, right? He's just talking about galut in general, and he says, oh, galut only works when it slips. If it breaks, there's never any galut. Which would indicate that even in a soneh, there would not be. Because if in a regular guy, there isn't. So there's never a case of breaking where you go into galut. All right? If that's so, we're going to see in just a minute that we're going to have to figure out what the answer to that is, how that fits. So the Gemara says, kasha nifsak nifsak. So we have a question, slipping on slipping, and we have, breaking on breaking, and we have a question, slipping on slipping. The two braitas contradict each other in each case. The Gemara says, no, let's go one by one. Ahlan wa sahlan. Lokash, not a question. Nishmat anishmat, right? When you're talking about something slips out of your hands, when something slips out of your hands, it's not a question that the braitas contradict. Habe ohev, one is talking about ohev. So when it's ohev, when the person is not a hater, then you have galut. Veha besoneh, the first braita, which says that if it slipped out of your hands, there's no galut. What's it talking about? A hater. So there, when it slipped out of your hands, what do we say? You let it slip because you ate him. Okay? So therefore, nishmat anishmat, are we good? Slipping, we're good? When it's ohev, you get galut. Why? Because it's an accident. When it's a hater, we say, yes, it's an accident. But it's an accident you had control over. So therefore, if you're a soneh, you're not going to get galut. Gemara says, lo kashya, but also, so now we have to answer the second one. Nifsak nifsak, breaking on breaking. How do we answer that? So remember, the first braita we said was talking about soneh. And what does it say over here? Nishmat, if it, nifsak, if it broke, you get galut, right? By a soneh, correct? Nifsak and nifsak. So what do? Why can't we answer the same thing? Because over here in soneh, we said, if it broke, what do we say?
When it broke.
We say, there is galut, right? Why?
Because it could break.
Sorry?
It's out of your control.
It's out of
By a soneh, so his hatred is irrelevant. because he couldn't control whether or not it broke. So therefore, there would be galut. So we don't have the answer because then when it comes over here by ohev nishmat, he should get galut, and over here we're saying nifsak, it doesn't get galut. So the Gemara answers lo kasha ha Rebbe, the second braita, where if it breaks and we're saying it's ohev, right? You don't get galut. That should for sure be galut. On that the Gemara answers, we're going according to Rebbe. Rebbe, if you remember correctly, remember when we said, Rebbe said that there's never any galut for when something breaks. And therefore, if you remember, he learned the whole case of breaking as when the axe hits the wood and a piece ricochets. Because if it breaks, Rebbe said there's never galut. So therefore, the opinion that says in this Mishnah that breaks there's no galut is according to Rabbi Shimon in the view of Rebbe. Okay? Now we have one problem. What's our problem? Our problem is if nishmat, if it slips out of your hand, then you have, right? Then it says that you have galut, right? And this is talking about oev. Where would there ever be a case of something breaking and not slipping out of your hand where you'd be chayav?
Wait.
The
Breaking?
wheelbarrow from the beginning?
Sorry?
The wheelbarrows from the beginning?
Again, I can't hear.
The wheelbarrow from the beginning?
What do you mean by the wheelbarrow?
Like you're pulling it, it was going down and then it's...
So that's nishmat.
That's slipping.
That's slipping.
Or the handle.
Where would we ever have a case of breaking? Once you're following the opinion of Rebbe in Rabbi Shimon, is there ever a case other than something slipping out of your hand where there would be galut?
What about the ladder?
Sorry?
The ladder. When the ladder breaks,
Yeah.
you get galut, right?
So Rabbi Yehuda holds, right? Rabbi Yehuda holds that anytime something breaks, there's no galut. So now you're limiting Rabbi Shimon in Rabbi Yehuda to only when things slip out of your hands, right? You hear the question? So the answer is actually, there is one scenario. What's the one scenario? I want to show you this. Beautiful. Tosafot. Look at at Tosafot. V'him toma l'Rebbe. You see that?
No, where is it?
It's the first narrow line in Tosafot. V'him tomar. If you would ask me the question, l'Rebbe, according to Rebbe, hechi mishkachat la soneh sheyigale. Where would you have a case of a soneh, someone who is a hater, that would get galut? If Rabbi Shimon just told us that whenever it slips a soneh, you can't nail him because we assume he did it on purpose. The only soneh you could nail is if it breaks, because then it's not up to his wily, nefarious intentions. But Rebbe always holds that breaking is completely categorically removed from galut. So if it slips, Rabbi Shimon exempts you. If it breaks, Rabbi Yehuda exempts you. So there's never a time that a soneh would ever get galut. Why is that a problem? Because Rabbi Shimon told us, yesh soneh goleh, yesh soneh she'eno goleh.
But he used the rope as
Tosafot bomb question. Sorry?
But didn't he use the rope as an example?
So in the first braita, we used the rope. But in the second braita, where we were forced away from that pshat, because we had the contradiction in breaking, and we established the second braita as Rabbi Yehuda, turns out that in the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon is a checkmate. Because slipping, Rabbi Shimon said, there's no soneh, because we assume his intentions are what caused him to let it go. The only answer of a hater is when it breaks. So we would say that it can't be because of his intentions, because something else had to break. But Rabbi Yehuda is of the opinion that anytime something breaks, he doesn't get galut. So Tosafot is asking a bomb question. לרבי, איך אם אשכח לצוני שיגלה, דבי נשמת אוהב גולה ולא שונא, ואם בנפסק, אפילו אוהב אינו גולה. ואין זו סברה לומר, תלת רבי דרבי שמעון. You can't say that Rabbi Yehuda doesn't hold of Rabbi Shimon. דהבי רבי, because he was his rabbi. ויש לומר, דמכל מקום, משכחת לה, כגון שנפל מן הגג.
He fell from the roof.
When the guy himself is the faller. עליו דידוע לכל שלא נפל מדעת. What was the logic of why a break? What was the logic of why a break your hatred doesn't play in?
Because it wasn't your fault it broke.
Because you could not have controlled that the hammer would break in half or that the rope would snap.
You jumped from the roof.
So too, if the guy himself jumps off the roof, we would never assume that the soneh was doing that out of his own free will, because he risks when he falls on the other guy. Yes, he's trying to kill him, but then that would also put him in harm's way. So when I have a logic to say it can't be because of his hatred,
Right.
that would be the case of Rabbi
So
Shimon.
basically, him like a suicide
Yeah.
situation is the only
A
way.
A kamikaze galut would be the scenario that would answer this question according to Rabbi Yehuda in Rabbi Shimon. So Tosafot comes riding in and gives us a beautiful answer. Shareya b'sakanat mavet. He would have endangered his own life in order to be able to do that. So we would not assume that would be the case. In which case, we have a scenario for Rabbi Shimon in yesh soneh goleh and yesh soneh she'eno goleh. If you're not following Rabbi Yehuda, what is Rabbi Shimon saying? The soneh goleh is when it breaks. Soneh eno goleh is when it slips. In Rabbi Yehuda's opinion, which is the second braita, Rabbi Shimon is saying you get galut for what? You don't get galut for slipping, okay? Because we're worried that maybe you did it on purpose. You don't get galut for breaking, because breaking never gives you galut, even if you were not someone who hated. So where's the yesh goleh according to Rabbi Shimon in Rabbi Yehuda's opinion? When the guy himself fell off the roof. Now, I have a problem with this Gemara. I think the Gemara has not watched enough movies.
Come up with more scenarios.
No, what I'm saying is, you're telling me that when the rope snaps, the guy could not have planned that?
Yeah,
when the
rope
when the
is-
ladder break, he brings a faulty ladder. Everything looks kosher. He steps on it, it breaks, and now the rope, he got the rope, true, yeah, right, you're 100%, looks like a very solid rope. Meanwhile, what did the guy do? He's a Boy Scout. He took the rope that's red, and he pulled apart the things. He sawed away the whole inside. It's a good thing I'm not a criminal.
But then you wouldn't get galut.
You know how many people would be accidentally dying around me? We would have no more tsaras/soros.
Isn't that intentional, and you wouldn't get galut for that anyway?
Sorry?
If it's intentional, then you wouldn't get galut either, right?
Who's going to know it's intentional?
No, but we don't know. What I'm saying is the Gemara is saying de facto, like
the only way to
that. What do you mean? Of course, a soneh gets galut when when the item breaks, because there his intentions could not have played in. Like that's the whole difference between slipping and breaking. A rope slipping, that's under your control, so we suspect you. Something breaking, we don't suspect you. Why do we not suspect you? How hard is it for the guy to unscrew the top of the axe and then go swing the axe?
Wait, if it breaks, I thought nobody gets galut when it breaks.
That was the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda.
Oh, okay.
But before we got to Rabbi Yehuda, the Gemara was saying slipping versus breaking is what Rabbi Shimon means. And the logic is, slipping you have control, breaking you have no control. I take issue with the fact that breaking you have no control. I think that is something that could be, manipulated by, like Tosafot's answer, that's rock solid. Right? Unless the guy hates him so much that he's willing to die in order for him to die. But I kind of feel like if that's the scenario, he just would have shot him in the face. Because you know what? If he's ready to die to kill him, let him take on the death penalty.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
just
thinking?
saw.
If the person, if we know,
Also, he's not giving up the satisfaction of looking in his eyes and killing him, right? And taking a risk.
if you know the person hates you, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you're already suspect of him, right? So you're already on guard. So something like, that's a little outlandish, like sawing a rope or it's doing something, you're already on guard. You know the guy hates you. You're not walking into it like fully trusting. Maybe they're thinking about it that way.
So you're saying the Gemara is saying that anyone who's going on a wood chopping expedition with a guy they hate probably looked over the axe.
Think about it like a business.
Is that what you
deal.
mean?
Like, yeah, like if I'm
So
going
therefore,
out to the
so you're
woods
saying
with
so it's not
someone-
relevant.
If I'm going out to the woods with someone I know hates me, okay, and they bring in an axe, I should probably check, right?
Right, but what if
So
so
you're-
you're walking under the house and the
you
rope?
shouldn't be
No, I'm just
responsible.
saying you should be on guard. It's like a business deal, right? You know, you're walking into a business deal.
No, 1 second. What Morris is countering with,
Not with the guy.
if you're with the guy, that's a good answer.
Don't know
Okay.
about it.
I'm just walking down Madison Avenue. The guy's rappelling down the side of a building.
Sneak attack.
Spider-Man.
Just with less webs.
I don't know. I'm out of answers.
Right? So this was my question on the Gemara. I don't feel like I have a good grip on why this wasn't the Gemara doesn't feel that this is a problem. The answer might be that when Rabbi Shimon says yesh soneh goleh, yesh soneh eno goleh, the Gemara now needs to come up with what did Rabbi Shimon mean when he says that there is a galut. So we picked a case that's more likely to fit. Doesn't mean that it's ironclad. But we know that he holds that. So we need to now find a scenario that fits that. So this scenario is a likely one that it points to. We would not have come up with it if Rabbi Shimon did not say that, there is soneh goleh. Okay. Let's
It
continue.
would be funny if the Gemara, had in it, if someone was hiding behind the top of a building and dropped down and, snuck up on somebody, like some outlandish case. We would look at it and say, that's so outlandish.
You know what's funny? The Gemara actually does say cases like that.
Oh, really?
And we've come across them already. The Gemara said already earlier, there's a lot of things, it just doesn't sound as, like we've turned it into like Batman swooping down on Joker, just like standing on his head. But the Gemara's language is Bekeren Zavit,
Rabbi,
on a corner.
Right.
Right? It's much less glamorous. But he's coming this way, you're waiting right over here, you don't even see him. And then the guy runs you over with his car by accident, So we had this, I don't know if you remember this, I brought this case. The Gemara tells us about a scenario where the halakha is a person's not allowed to stare at a beautiful woman, right? You're not allowed to look at a beautiful woman because of, how do you call it? Because of desire. So the Gemara says, but Rabbi Akiva made a beracha on the wife of Turnus Rufus,
His future wife.
right? But he didn't know that yet. He made a beracha because she was the most beautiful woman. She was the wife of the governor of Jerusalem, who was Roman at the time. And he made a beracha on her. The Gemara asks, how do you make a beracha on her? How was he looking? And the Gemara answers, Bekeren Zavit. He didn't know that she was coming. He was walking this way. She was walking this way. They came to the corner. He then saw her. But it wasn't a thing that he could have chosen to or not to see.
Is that when it says like if it happens on you, you're allowed to look, but you can't look twice or something like that?
The concept of Keren Zavit is the concept of not looking twice.
Okay, got it.
It's establishing that first sight was inadvertent, right? So you see that the Gemara does come out with these Keren Zavit, just again, not
It
as
says Karen Zavit.
exactly like we said, because the Gemara does not watch as many movies as us. Okay,
Rabbi,
yes.
so galut here is it a punishment for killing someone through neglect or carelessness, basically?
It is a rigidly defined carelessness, okay, where the carelessness is not too much carelessness,
Okay.
where galut would not be enough, and not too little carelessness, where we would say, something, how's he supposed to know?
And if I hate someone, it's almost impossible for me to carelessly kill him.
If
I hate someone, so
Hate or hit?
hate,
right?
Yeah.
So we're saying it's almost impossible if one person hates another person for that death to be through careless.
so the three opinions reflect the three different perspectives that we have on someone who hates someone and then inadvertently kills them. The first opinion said, soneh eno nerag. Why? Because for sure it was not inadvertent. The second opinion said, for sure it was inadvertent to the point where we're actually going to give you the death penalty. And the third opinion says, well, yesh v'yesh. Depends on the case. That's effectively what Rabbi Shimon is saying. The first way of understanding Rabbi Shimon is slip versus break. Second way of understanding Rabbi Shimon is, fall on the guy versus any other case. All right, let's continue with the Mishnah. The Mishnah now is going to go on to these actual cities that we talked about. We know that you got to go into exile, but where are you going to exile to? You guys know how weird I am, right?
No.
You know how weird I am. You don't know.
You don't
Self-proclaimed.
Okay. So, in my mind, when
Very emphatic about that.
in my mind, as I said, we're gonna. The guy has to go to exile, but where does he go? Do you remember how in The Price is Right, when they introduced the new vacation package? Yeah. Let's show him what he's wants. I just had the package play in my mind. Yeah, exactly. Let's show him the galut. Okay, fine. And we're now going to see, what does that mean? Says the Mishnah, Lehechan golim. To where does this person go to galut? Gemara says, Le'arei miklat. To the cities that a person is able to run away to. L'shalosh shebe'ever hayarden, to 3 that were across the Jordan River. U'l'shalosh shebe'eretz Canaan, and to the 3 that were in Eretz Canaan, that were in Israel, that were in the land that was the land of Canaan, which became Eretz Israel. Shneimar, like it says, et shalosh harim tetenu. 3 cities you should give. Me'ever le'Yarden, on the other side of the Jordan. Ve'et shalosh harim tetenu be'eretz Canaan, and 3 cities in Yerushalayim. Okay? In Eretz Israel. Ad shelo nivcharu shalosh be'eretz Israel, until we had chosen those 3, right? Lo ayu shalosh be'ever hayarden koltot. The 3 on the other side of the River Jordan they could not absorb. They were not, sorry to use a terrible term in this difficult time, they were not sanctuary cities. Okay? Lo ayu shalosh be'ever hayarden koltot. They could not, so in other words, you could not run to them. Even though the cities on the other side of the Jordan had been conquered years and years and years before. How long does the conquest take from when they get into Eretz Israel? It's 14 years until they fully conquer Eretz Israel completely. And everyone fights together until that point. But Ever HaYarden is conquered already before they begin the process.
So until they named the 3 in Canaan, you couldn't run.
So Moshe Rabbeinu already separated those 3 cities on the other side of the Jordan. So right, remember they're coming from across the Jordan into Eretz Israel. They conquer that. Moshe sets aside. It's pasuk in the Torah. Az yavdil Moshe. Moshe Rabbeinu separated those 3 cities. Why did Moshe do that? Because he wanted a portion in the mitzvah, knowing he wasn't going to get the second part.
Genius.
Right? So he wanted to start the mitzvah. Because the sachar of a mitzvah goes after the person that, like the first person in the minyan, right? So, lo ayu shalosh, but they were not operational as cities of refuge until the other 3. Why? Because the pasuk puts them together. Ad shayu sheshtan koltot be'echad, until all 6 would work together. Now look, let's read the pasuk again. Et shalosh harim tetnu me'ever le'Yarden, ve'et shalosh harim tetnu be'eretz Canaan. So it puts the 6 of them together in the same pasuk, so to speak, to designate them as happening and operating as one unit. Until the second 3 were in place, the first 3 could not operate. U'mechuvanot lahen derachim mizu lezu. And there were roads that were laid out from one city to the next. Shneimar tachin lecha derech v'shilashta. You should prepare the way, so to speak, the roads for someone that kills accidentally to be able to run, to be able to get to those places.
Wouldn't that guy want to take a different road if the people all know the road and he could get killed along the way?
Perhaps, but that is the last time that you want to take a wrong turn at Poughkeepsie. Right? So, and there's actually signs posted telling you Ir Miklat this way. Okay? Now, says the Gemara, says the Mishnah, Shneimar, like it says, Tachin lecha derech v'shilashta. Prepare the road and divide it that way. Okay? Now, we're gonna have to see exactly what the Mishnah means when we say this, Tachin lecha derech v'shilashta. What does that mean? That you should divide the road and you should prepare the road and divide it. What does it mean? Let's continue with the Mishnah. The Mishnah then continues and says, Umrosrin lahen shnei talmidei chachamim. And this guy, who's now running literally for his life, he gets 2 rabbis to accompany him. Shem yagenu baderech. Because what happens if the guy kills him on the way.
Someone has to bury him?
We have to figure out exactly what that means. Isn't that the whole point?
The whole point is for the guy to get away to the Irmaklat.
Yes, but until he gets to the Irmiklat,
You have two
he's
guys
fit,
going with him.
but he's fair game.
So
Right,
why
but
do you have
they're
an
gonna
escort?
try
So then what do you have the escort for?
Try to
Maybe,
talk him
maybe
out
in
of
case
it.
he dies to bury him.
Huh?
Maybe in case he dies to
Try
bury
to
him.
talk. the
Okay,
killer.
maybe in case of bury him, we'll see. What?
Try to talk the family member out of killing the guy.
Yeah,
Because he
Maybe
did it
warning him.
unintentionally.
but but no, he's allowed to,
I know,
as
but
we
it's
said.
unintentional.
And we
so-
even have a what's it called? And we even have a question. We even have a question of maybe it's a mitzvah for the guy to kill him. We said that, remember?
All right.
Okay? So, let's try, we have to try and understand exactly what this means.
Brule Lav is them talking to the guy, hey, don't do this. No?
What do you mean?
The two Talmidei Chachamim are telling the other guy, don't kill this guy, let him get to the city.
Nobody, again,
He's allowed
to kill him until he gets to the city.
Right.
Huh?
He killed him inadvertently,
Yeah.
not intentional. So give the guy a break.
But that's not the halakha.
But that's why they were there.
So what are they trying to do? Just trying to calm the guy down.
They don't want
Yeah.
him to kill. They
Says
don't want
here, it
anyone
says
to
in the
die.
bottom.
Yeah.
It says in the bottom,
says
the
in the
sages
bottom.
prescribe that the Torah scholars accompany the killer rather than bodyguards. They reason that an appeal to the conscience of the Goel Hadam would be efficacious,
Yeah.
while physical protection might spur the Goel Hadam to arrange a larger attacking force, an act that would result in more
Because he
bloodshed.
looks like a criminal if you send bodyguards.
Again, one more time. Now they're going with the guy. Okay? Why are they going with the guy if he's allowed to kill him?
They're going with the guy who killed, not they're going with the guy who killed?
Yeah, they're
right?
going with the killer.
They go with the killer.
Maybe
They
we still
go
don't
with,
want him to get killed.
Right, they're protecting him.
So again,
If he was supposed
if
to be
it's
killed-
not a mitzvah, that makes sense.
But it's a mitzvah.
But the Torah
If it's a
says-
mitzvah, at least there's an opinion that says it's a
It's
mitzvah.
it's
So we're gonna have to deal with it on both sides.
The
It's
Torah
a
says
mitzvah to
galut.
kill
It doesn't say you're going to kill the guy.
It says that he has to go run to Galut,
Right.
because if he doesn't run to Galut,
Get
he
killed.
can get killed and his blood is free. Yani.
But the Torah doesn't prescribe death for the guy.
So again, one more time, you're right. But if it's a mitzvah, why are they trying to convince him not to do something that it's a mitzvah?
Is it a mitzvah?
So there's a difference of opinions.
Look,
So I'm trying to say we're gonna have to deal with this on both sides. On the side, it's not a mitzvah. The Gemara is perfect. Mishnah is perfect. On this, right? Because we're
if you
trying to
hold it,
convince
that's
the
your
guy
opinion.
not to do it. But according to the opinion, it's a mitzvah. Why are we trying to calm him down and have him not do the mitzvah?
Because even if it's a mitzvah, you said a bad deen that killed once in every.
This is not a bad deen.
Right, so we're not.
This is
promoting-
this is go- again. If it's a mitzvah, we are promoting it.
I don't think
We
it's a
don't
mitzvah.
promote killing.
So we have a machloket. On the side, it's not a mitzvah. We have no questions. On the side, it's a mitzvah. We have to figure out why they're trying to dissuade the guy. In fact, maybe the rabbi should get up and try to persuade the guy. All right, so we'll see. Shema Gera Baderech. Veidaberu elav, and they'll speak to him. Okay. Rabbi Meir says, "Afu medaber al yidei atzmo." So too, he should also speak up and try to defend himself. Shneimar v'zeh devar rotzeach. This is the words of the rotzeach. So we have two people trying to dissuade the killer in the Mishnah, the Talmidei Chachamim, and the killer himself trying to calm the guy down and de-escalate the situation.
Mitzvah 4.
Baruch Adonai Le'olam, amen, amen.